Coming up on this week's episode of Smart Tech Today, we start things out with a little bit of humidifier follow-up, which leads to some conversation about sleep and chill and all sorts of things that I love to talk about. We talk about some announcements and updates over in Amazon land, including folks who haven't tried out Amazon's key delivery service yet, getting quite a discount. Then we talk about the Google Assistant adding some cool new lock screen command cards so that when you issue voice commands, you can also see some information about it. And the Apple TV app coming to the Google Chromecast. What? Pretty wild. It's all that, plus our tips and picks of the week. And, of course, a little bit of a project for you on Smart Tech Today.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Gabi Insurance. You're probably overpaying on car and home insurance. See how much Gabi can save you. It's totally free to check and there's no obligation. Go to gabi.com/STT. Hello and welcome to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I am Matthew Cassinelli. Hello, Mikah. I have been thinking about you lately because of your excellent humidifier tips from, I can't remember, was it last week or the week before? But
I think it was last
taking
week,
heed
yeah.
of it and benefiting so far. So thank you.
This is good. So tell me more. So was it that you were in a low humidity situation and you decided to up the humidity? Tell me what's going on.
Yes, basically.
Tell me how you feel.
And I didn't have any awareness that was the case at all until I thought about your advice. So it was cool. So basically, it actually started out because both my girlfriend and I mentioned how we were just kind of feeling slightly run down, or like not like sick, but just not feeling normal. And I kind of realized that my throat hadn't felt good or anything like that. And then just thinking back, I was like, it has been pretty warm the last few days. And I went and checked our little Eve degree that we have in our living room, and it was saying that it was 37% humidity, which I only knew last week that on average we had about 55% humidity. So I was like, that's interesting. It's not that great. And then even I went into the app and looked back a couple of days, and especially we had I think it was over 70 degrees here on Tuesday. So it was kind of wild. And it was extremely dry that day. Outside right now, even at 17%. And then those days it was like around 30. And basically I checked my Eve and looked back at the same past couple of days, and the weather inside the house had been extremely dry, especially as we were using the oven and using our heater. And then basically I just kind of realized this house is extremely dry and I might actually need a humidifier, which I had almost assumed I never needed before.
I got a notification last night that said the humidity was 32%. And that is awful. So I actually have an issue right now where my AC, I know this is, of course, a privileged complaint, but my AC is not working. So the blower is fine and everything like that, but the actual cool air is not cool air. It's just normal air. So there's something wrong with the coolant mechanism. But it's a conundrum because asking to have that fixed will probably require someone coming into my home, which the whole point of sheltering in place is to not be around other people as much as possible. And then the other problem with that is I just got my utility bill, and by golly, it's made quite the difference not having the AC doing its thing because I should admit that it's been not working for quite a while. So I've had the AC turned off because it's been cool enough outside. But I do miss it, especially at night, because along with humidity playing an important role, sleeping in a cold room is actually incredibly important. And I think, if I remember correctly, the last time I was looking into it, it's about 64 degrees is actually the temperature that we should be, at which we should be sleeping. And I was talking to my partner about it because he had brought up, someone at work had said that sleeping in a cold room is good. And of course, then I was like, do you know why? Did they explain why? And no. And so I was so excited to get to talk about it. But he said, my partner was like, I just don't get it though, because you put yourself under covers and everything. So that's the point, is that if you sleep in a room that's 64 degrees and put yourself under covers, then your internal temperature gets up to, say, 7, well, of course your internal temperature is hotter, but the temperature under the blankets, so to speak, is 70. But if you sleep in a room that's 72, 74 degrees, then the internal temperature under the blanket's going to be like 80. So it's better to have that be lower. And there are many reasons why. And if anybody wants to learn more, they should look up studies about what's called brown fat. When our bodies are sleeping in cold rooms, we tend to produce more brown fat, and brown fat is actually a substance within us that burns calories, which is interesting, and is a sort of it's a different type of fat that our bodies produce. But along with that, it tends to help us sleep better because our bodies have to do less work regulating our temperature when it's on the cooler side. But that's, again, only one side of things. That's what I've been missing. But it's resulted in me having my windows open more with the AC not working. And that has actually led to it being less humid in the space because my humidifier can't kick on and keep the humid air in because it's going out the window. Yeah. So I'm right there with you. Heat. It's been pretty low.
That's interesting. First of all, Dr. Mikah strikes again. I love it. Just, by the way, you should sleep cool at night because of brown fat, which I had no idea. So thank you for dropping knowledge as usual. And not that you're an actual doctor, but...
Yes, please. No, I'm not an actual doctor. I play one on podcasts. I don't really play one on podcasts, but it's just a nickname.
I mean, totally. But that's even that. Like I was just mentioning that I took your advice last week, and now you have even better advice. So that's perfect. And it does confirm that or what you were saying about your higher or your lower bills, we've been experiencing the opposite. Now that we have a heater, our bills are way higher. So it was like, great. And also, no, it's drying us out. And so that's another problem. But I have like a nighttime cycle for the heat now that we set at 64. So I'm glad to know that was the exact right temperature, because it does make sense. It's like any colder and you even just like, I don't know, this is not the doctor side of it, but just personal is I just would get a little bit too cold. Like even when we didn't have our heat, 63 was about where you were like, okay, I'm getting chilly now. So I wonder if that's even just like you're just uncomfortable at that point. But so now I am thinking about a humidifier, mostly because part of it is when you get 70-degree dry heat in February in California, that's not a great sign for the rest of the year. And we probably are going to be having some drier weather. So I might need to keep things nice in here. And I was looking up solutions too of literally boiling water, but the other one was taking a shower without the fan on and having just the humidity go into the air. So
a couple of tips there. I just want to double down on that. That is one of my favorite things to do in general. I think it's actually a bit of a self-care thing. Showering without turning on the exhaust fan. It's very... As a person who has to use my voice a bunch of times in a given week, it is a really therapeutic process. But if I can add on to that, if anybody out there wants to treat themselves without having to spend too much money, you can find these at almost any drugstore like CVS or Walgreens. But look for Vicks. Let me see what they're exactly called. Okay, it's called Vicks Vapo Shower. And these are little tablets that you put into the bottom of the shower, and they are eucalyptus and menthol. And so the shower, the steam will start to dissolve it, and those little molecules of eucalyptus and menthol will, with the components that make up eucalyptus and menthol, will cling to the water molecules in the air and rise up and create this eucalyptus and menthol space. And so you get this nice warm steam. You get the benefits of what eucalyptus and menthol do for your respiratory system, and it's almost like you're in a spa. And I love these things. So it's $12.50, which is a little expensive, but for 5 of them, which is not bad. And so you get 5 of these, and I will, even if I'm not, feeling under the weather, sometimes I will, if I've got an extra one, I'll make use of it. My one tip, though, is don't make my mistake, which was to buy after using the Vicks ones for a while, I thought, I'm going to save some money and buy the drugstore brand. They smelled so bad. For some reason, they made these, the ones that are store brand, they set on them like less intense smell or something like that. So I guess people are complaining that the eucalyptus and menthol was too much, which give me more, not less. But anyway, the store brand had like something to make it so that the smell wasn't as intense. And whatever it was horrible. It made it like thick and gross and bad to breathe in. So anyway, my point is that Matthew Cassinelli, if you're ever having a particularly kind of rough go of things, consider getting that. And they last for a little while. Like I've gotten out of the shower with half of it still left in the shower, and then I just use it. It's just there for the next time I get in the shower. So, nice. Check those out.
We'll try it.
Without turning on your exhaust fan, but either afterwards turn on your exhaust fan, or what I typically do so that I'm not wasting that humidity is I will make sure that the door to the bathroom is open, and then we'll have some sort of fan running in the space. I just hit my stand over here in the space to kind of pull that humidified air out into the space. So yeah, there are some tips.
And my house doesn't even have a fan because that's how old it is. So we always have to open the window, or it just goes. I think thankfully because of like the
mold.
Just we did at some points, so that's part of it. But we just I think I almost always open the window and always get it out. So that's part of why it's interesting to we still have to pay attention to the air quality and the level of it, but I do think using it to humidify the rest of the house is another technique, because at the weird angle that it's at, we have like another door back into the hallway, so I think it gets enough ventilation if I do that, which is nice. Yeah, my throat, I need it, so I've been muting myself, coughing a little bit. So sorry if anyone caught that on the recording.
Yeah, I hope that humidifying in whatever way you choose, because boiling water on the stove is not a bad idea, although you tend to warm up your space in doing that. But whatever method you choose, I hope that it helps improve things.
The other thing I wanted to follow up was last week, I think I was just not prepared for talking about the lunar rover, and then I think I got inspired after our conversation, and my girlfriend and I had never watched all of For All Mankind, the Apple TV Plus show about like a fictional version of the space race if the U.S. had lost. And for some reason, we just got kind of like bored after the first episode, because I don't think the main dude totally was. He's like all pissed in the first one, so it's like, this isn't fun. But we rewatched it, and then I think also there was some more footage that came around, and for the actual Mars rover, and I was like, oh yeah, this is very cool. So I wanted to follow up in case we offended anyone who loves space. And I was just like not in the mood, but now that I watched that whole thing, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And there was something reason. Okay.
Oh, go ahead. I was just so speaking about that, there was something that someone said that kind of stuck with me that actually had me interested, which was the distance that the communications had to take place to get that video back to us on Earth. That part is really cool. That thing is so far away, and it had to beam all of that information back to us so that we would have that information. I think that's so exceptionally incredible, just to think about. Like, you've got to make sure that it comes back. What kind of processes do you have? You know, do you send a second ping in case the first one doesn't end up making it for whatever reason? Is there some space troll out there with a mirror trying to get the signal not to come to Earth? Like, there's just so much that's so cool about that. So
that does make sense.
Again, I hope that we did a good job last week, Matthew, of not only hedging, but explaining that our comments were not any kind of value judgment of people who think that these things are cool, but simply an observation. Sorry that was hard to get out, but an observation that for me, I had trouble kind of getting as excited, and I thought that it was really cool that people did get excited about it. So yeah, but the reason that we're bringing this up again is because you wanted to talk about For All Mankind and something that Apple has done to further say that AR is the future.
I thought this was an interesting tie-in, especially because there's not been a whole lot to do with AR stuff, or it seems like there's tons of potential and then not a whole lot of actualizing it yet. But I thought this was an interesting tool, especially just taking better advantage of the smart technology that we have. But Apple has a whole little time capsule sort of content experience for the show For All Mankind. And so it looks like it's up to 45 minutes of looking around. You basically scan your environment, and then you can go through a little interactive, like a box or reading a letter or looking at different little videos and things like that based on the characters of the show. And it was pretty neat. Like, I haven't finished the whole thing, but especially actually having watched the show now, the story did come out a couple of weeks ago, but I was like, wow, this is very well done. And I think an interesting angle to providing having the ability to expand it further into the show and things like that. So I think it's going to be interesting to see as the show goes on, especially because it's jumping across decades and things like that. So the time capsule thing kind of fits into that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
All right, let's talk about Amazon. So we talked a little bit last week, I believe it was, about some of Amazon's quote unquote Kickstarter projects. And I have some news about one of those. So we will talk about that later in the show. But first, this is kind of neat. If you hadn't seen this, I'd gotten a few notifications, or not notifications, but on my my Echo Show, a few times on the display, it would pop up with suggestions related to COVID. But there was one particular suggestion, Matthew, that you pointed out that I think could be very helpful for people.
Yeah, I thought this was just interesting, and I had missed the story too, that you can find where you can get tested for COVID nearby. So I personally haven't really bothered to do this because I've been inside most of the time, and I know that I'm not going to go interact in most of those places, so I don't have most reasons to get tested. And so I never actually go and look for this kind of stuff. And I think it's also one of those things that you just kind of randomly Google. I don't know how to get into contact with the right kind of stuff. And so you can just ask your smart speaker, where can I get tested? And for COVID-19, I guess maybe you have to be more specific, but then you can just get the answers right there. So I thought this was a clever utility that is just like a good expansion of a smart speaker. Something that is something that you might just want to put off, or I don't want to make a judgment call on actually getting tested for COVID, because you should if you need to. But
right,
just being able to find that quickly is a good way that I think it's like, I don't know, maybe in my experience, if you're not at all involved in that, it is like, sounds like a huge burden to go get tested, or I have like a lot of fear associated with it, basically, because it is like I'm going to go near a bunch of people to get tested. I haven't been near anybody at all. So it's like I'm still further beyond that part. But you obviously have a different experience.
Yeah, and you can, they do drive up car testing. So
that's fair.
You don't, I shouldn't say they do as if that's everywhere, but certainly around me, there's drive up car testing, which was nice. And the first time I ever got tested was quite a while ago now. And we did go in for that. And there weren't a lot of people at the time, but now that, things are where they are, a lot more people are getting tested. So yeah, you will likely be surrounded by folks, but they do their best to keep it as safe as possible. And of course, as long as you are doing all of your precautions, everything should be okay. Now, another Amazon story. Apparently, I should have waited to be happy, because if I had only waited to be happy, I could have gotten $40 worth of credit instead of, I think it was $20 at the time. Tell me, Matthew, what should I have waited on?
Yeah, this is I thought this was a good follow-up to the story that you've talked about a couple of times, where Amazon's in-garage delivery service is giving people more credit to try it. But I just wanted to see, are you still using it? Like, do you think you're always going to use it now? How far is it embedded itself into your life?
So I don't know where I'd be without my Amazon key delivery. No, I've not stopped using it since I've gotten it. It's such a convenient way to have my packages delivered, and the delivery times have improved as well, I've noticed lately. And so that's gotten a lot better. And yeah, I'm unendingly happy with it, and continue to kind of be if not an advocate, then if you have questions, I have answers kind of person about it, because I think some folks are maybe hesitant, and it's been my experience that there's not as much of a reason to be, given my own observations about how the service works and what, precautions are in place to try and mitigate any concerns. So I found it to be pretty great in that way.
Nice.
But yeah, I think that it's interesting that, because I thought that, at the time that was kind of a push to get people into it. So it's interesting that Amazon continues to work on encouraging more people to get into it and to use it. And yeah, I think if you have a method by which to set this up, give it a go. Because A, you're going to get a $40 credit, but B, I've just found it to be so convenient. And if you have one of the supported camera systems, then you can tie it to that as well, and it will automatically give you a notification so you can pop in and see what is going on in the space. So yeah, there's a list of the smart garage door opener hub system thingies that you can use it with. And there are some other ones as well. So yeah, I've been very happy with it. I've been very happy with the folks that are doing it. Almost always it's somebody new that's delivering packages, and everybody has been very respectful of the space. If there's my partner's car is in there, which pushes his car was right next to the garage door whenever his car is in there, or if it's gone and there's a bunch of open space in there, they are always still very respectful of the space and just boop, nice. Put the package down, close the garage door, go away. And the added bonus is that it has begun to desensitize the dogs to the garage door opener sound, which is a thing that used to set them off all the time. So that's cool. I always knew when my partner was home, but it was also very annoying if you were just sitting there watching a show and then suddenly, the dog that's been resting so peacefully and quietly on your lap turns into this like monstrosity with 4 swords at the end of its body that are just stabbing into you as it goes to run to the stairs to let me know that there's somebody there, I guess is I haven't looked into why.
So does that just like, because it's not purely associated with him coming home, like now they don't freak out as much, or?
I think it's actually operant conditioning, because if you've ever watched Dog Whisperer, so maybe it was less about them being so it's either two things. One of the things is it's that they've heard it so much that it's just a desensitized sound now, because yes, it doesn't necessarily mean that door to the garage is going to open and Sebastian's going to walk in, which is one of the reasons that I think they're barking. But if it's not just them kind of becoming desensitized, then the other thing would be operant conditioning, because as I said, the reason why I brought up Dog Whisperer is that little sound that he does to get the dogs to be quiet. That is the thing that I do to get them to stop barking, and it works. And so it could be that they just now, because there have been enough instances of garage door opens, they start barking, I tell them to stop barking, and they stop. Now they know that when the garage door opens, we should not bark, because it results in us being told we need to be quiet. And pro tip, never shout at your dogs if you're trying to get them to stop barking, because they think that you're joining them in barking. And so then it's like, oh, we're all barking. Okay, this is great. Let's keep barking.
That's hilarious. I've been totally seeing a bunch of like TikToks about dog training. So I'm like, oh yeah, nice.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Dog trainer TikTok. And then last but not least, something I've had my eyeball on and may have its eyeball on all of us is the Amazon Echo Show 10. This is a product that Amazon announced way back when with the introduction of other new Echoes, but it had not launched until now. And it is a pivoting, rotating Amazon Echo Show so that you can, in theory, communicate with others and like move about the space while you're communicating with others. Problem is, if you're anything like me, then you've never really done the. So the reason why I have not thought about getting this device is because I've never used the communication system with my current set of shows. So I've never had those video calls. So to have this where it's an improvement to the video calls is not something that I'm doing. What about you? I mean, this article kind of touches on that, is that it's they call it a rotating screen, but it's a pricey novelty. And novelty is not something you want to hear about what's supposed to be the kind of big feature of this Echo Show.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it seems like they're competing with that whole Zoom setup and Google Home, or what is it even called now? The Nest Hub Max and the Facebook Portal realm. And so I think that's why it's priced so high. I mean, even just in terms of pure like technical aspect, it seems like it would cost a lot for what it does. I thought it was funny too that it is like a screen attached to a little orb, and it has a rotating part on it. And I thought it was interesting. The article said that if you do put it in like an island in a kitchen or something like that in the center and walk around, once it gets to a certain point, it has to flip all the way back around in order to keep rotating properly. And so like, I just imagine if you're on a call and suddenly it's like, whoa, you're just like, oh my God.
You get a little sick, I would think.
But even I have a Nest Hub regular in my kitchen, and I do notice that I pretty much always have to turn it the direction that I'm facing, because I do like occasionally use it sitting at the table or standing up and things like that. And so it would have to rotate a little bit. Other like small quirks from the review that I thought was funny, like if they were off to the side, it would put them into frame, but just like only barely, so that they're very on the very edge, and it wasn't doing a very like intelligent job of putting them towards the center. So, but then sometimes it would be like, am I facing the right way? Like, and ask them, and they could like reply on the screen. So I thought that was funny.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that you
like
can
still
it'll
trying to learn at least,
because that's one of the things that I have to give Amazon credit for, is that they do try to learn from the users. And so just the other day, for the first time in a long time, you'll be so proud, Matthew. I did some voice computing. My partner had asked a question, and I didn't know the answer to it. And so I asked ALEXA, and ALEXA had the answer. And after we were done, it said, by the way, I want to make sure that I am responding to your question in the right place. Was this device the right device to use, or something along those lines? Because I've got multiple Echo devices in my space, and I was able to say, yes, this was the right device. Like, when you heard my voice and you responded from this one, this is where I wanted to talk to you and hear from you. So I like that interacting with a user to improve upon the experience for the user versus leaving everything kind of in a black box and not knowing what you did wrong or what went wrong to make the thing not work how you expect.
Yeah, I agree. I do think this product overall, though, is pretty expensive. Like they're saying the version just below it, which I think is the 8. I don't know why it blows my mind that the numbers are associated with the sizes and not the versions, because it's like every other product ever does versions. And so it still confuses me, or trips me up at least. But it's like $100 less for that, and it just doesn't rotate. So it's kind of like, it does seem like a nice to have, but I'm interested to see if this class of products gets cheaper over time versus right now. It does kind of feel like they're trying to milk it for, I don't know. It's hard to I don't want to judge how much it costs, but it is still, that's not something that most people are going to get. And so it kind of defeats the purpose if it's not commoditized in a way that's universally usable, because then it's just like, I don't know, rich people have these little they can all video chat from their large kitchens with the island in the middle and have the Echo show. I don't know. Now I'm just being judgy. Jesus. I would love a space like that. So the Echo for rich people. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but it is still like you said, I'm gonna, you were talking about buying one now, so now I feel bad, but they are interesting. I would want it if it was a little bit cheaper, I think. So
I think if I get one, I would get the Google Nest, because everything I've heard about the display on the Nest Hub Max or whatever it's called at this point is much better than this one.
Just like the
so
quality?
I feel like, yeah, the quality of the screen, and there's something to be said for Google's Photos platform doing a better job of, because that's what I would want it to be, is a place to display photos. That's what I use my Echo Show for now. And so I think I would go that way over the Echo Show 10, although I've got a lot of Echoes, so it's kind of hard. I don't know. Yeah. I have to think about it, but one of these paths leads to judgment from Matthew Cassinelli, and I don't know if that's a path I want to take,
I mean, I think that Amazon's also, now that you mentioned it, with the hub too, like I agree that the photos part is a major reason why I like it. That's like pretty much the main use 99% of the time. I don't actually do a ton of YouTube and things on there, but that was, YouTube itself is not on the show. And so that's just Google not playing ball, which is a shame also, because that just makes it worse for everybody, I'd say. So, and I thought it was interesting too that the old version of this had Dolby type projection of the sound, and now this one doesn't. And I thought that was just like Amazon kind of wanted it to be a movie or video platform as well, that maybe it isn't succeeding there, or just like, I'm sure most people aren't watching like Dolby surround movies on their Echo Show or something like that. So the Netflix part on the Nest Hub, I think, is cool too, for just like a casual thing.
Yeah.
Now I just feel bad. I want to walk back that part, but the Nest Hub Max is the same price. So
yeah.
You're
so either way,
I'm just a
rich fool. Let us take a quick break so I can tell you how to save money so that you can buy a new a Nest Hub Max or an Echo Show 10 without feeling like you're spending too much money and you might be judged by my co-host Matthew Cassinelli. How are you going to save money? You're going to save money with Gabi Insurance. Look, let's just have this moment. Let me just look at you. You look at me. And we both we count down 3, 2, 1. And when we get to 1, we're both going to say the same thing. Okay. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. We're overpaying on car and home insurance. That's what you said, right? We said the same thing. Yeah, exactly. We all know it. We're all overpaying on car and home insurance, but it's so tough to try and find new car and home insurance quotes to go in and figure all of that out. It's this complex process. Just thinking about having to go on is stressing me out. And because of that, we don't have the time to deal with it. But it turns out that there's a way to deal with that with the help of technology. Technology comes along once again. How would you like to keep an extra $961 a year in your pocket? That's how much Gabi customers save per year on average on car and home insurance. On average on car and home insurance. That's why when I was shopping online for car insurance, I used Gabi. This is the time of year we go shopping for insurance, of course. Gabi takes the pain out of shopping for insurance by giving you an apples-to-apples comparison of your current coverage with 40 of the top insurance providers like Progressive, Nationwide, and Travelers. All you have to do is link your current insurance account, and in most cases, you will receive quotes in a few minutes for the exact same coverage you currently have. So that means that you link your account so that way Gabi can look in and say, okay, they've got this kind of coverage, they've got this coverage, this okay, all the way down the list. And then they can pop that in and show you, okay, you can get the exact same thing from this place for this much, this place for this much, this place for this much. And of course, that was the process that I went through. And then if you want to move forward with one of those quotes, the insurance company you selected will review all of your details and confirm the final price. At that time, there may be some adjustments based on any new info that wasn't shared prior. And then at that point, you would speak to a Gabi agent. But for some people, it's done without even getting to that stage. Look, this is wild. On average, an online quote takes you 1,100 keystrokes. One online quote, a single online quote takes 1,100 keystrokes. Gabi gives you multiple quotes at a time. So depending on how many quotes you get, that starts to add up. You've got suddenly many keystrokes of stress and anxiety all figured out in mere seconds. It saves you a tremendous amount of time. When I went online to check out Gabi and see if it could save me money on auto insurance, because I don't own my home, I just rent it. But for my car, I wanted to see. And this is the cool thing. This is how you know that there's integrity with this company. You go online and you type in your information and it does all the processing and it goes, hey, look, you've already got the best. You've already got the least expensive insurance. You've got the best deal that you can get for the insurance coverage that you have. I've got a really old car, so it kind of is already not too expensive for me to have insurance on it. And Gabi let me know, good on you. Good job. You've got the best insurance that you can have for your vehicle. That was very helpful to me to know that, that I already had the good deal and Gabi wasn't trying to upsell me or anything like that. Gabi customers save $961 per year on average. Of course, that'd be good to have in your pocket every year. And speaking of Gabi customers, Leo is one of those customers. And turns out by switching to Gabi and going online and putting in all that information, Leo saved $2,000 on his home insurance. So on average, customers are saving $961 a year. Leo's saving $2,000 on his home insurance. Yeah. If they can't find you savings like they did for Leo, they'll let you know so you can relax knowing you have the best rate out there. And this is important. I specifically asked this. I said, okay, our listeners are going to hear log in with link your current insurance account, and they're going to be a little concerned. I've got to type in my information for my current account. What's that? What about privacy? What about data protection? Well, they quickly responded. We were chatting with them and they explained the whole process. And Gabby does not sell your info. It does not give out your phone number or your email or anything like that. So you're not going to get spam calls, robocalls. They're not interested in that. They're interested in saving you money. That's what they want to do. Save you money on your insurance. So don't worry about that. You can pop in, link your current insurance to save you time without needing to be concerned that suddenly you're going to get 1,000 different calls from all these different insurance companies. You're probably overpaying on car and home insurance. Remember, that's that sentence that we both said at the same time because we were both thinking it. See how much Gabby can save you. It's totally free to check and there's no obligation. No, seriously, just go there and give it a try. You may find that you already have great insurance. That's a good feeling too, that you've already got the best deal. This is, I don't know how anybody would not go there and do this. You go there right now. Check it out. Do it. You just go to Gabby.com/STT. That's GABI.com/STT. Gabby.com/STT. Thanks so much to Gabby for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today, for saving money for Leo and for others. And hey, for making me feel pretty doggone proud that I was already getting the best deal on insurance. All of that was good. Gabby.com/STT. Thanks so much, Gabby. All right, let us move along to talk about Waze. And Waze's ex-CEO who says, if we wouldn't have partnered with Google, then Waze would have grown faster. That's an interesting claim, don't you think?
Yeah, I thought this was just a funny headline to see the week after we were talking about how Waze felt a little stagnant in terms of their advancement of the app, at least. Or, I mean, the guy clearly, I don't know, he benefited a lot from selling Waze to them, and they have 140 million drivers using it now as opposed to 10 million. But I do think it was kind of like all they did was turn it into Google Maps, or pull what was in there into Google Maps and left what was there to get more simpler and more simplified. That was a terrible sentence. So I think it's an interesting take, especially having already used Google's resources to get this large. It's who knows what he would have done, especially compared to just fighting against Apple Maps at the time was a major entrant as well. So who knows? I don't actually necessarily agree, but I thought it was just funny to see right after we were talking about that.
Yeah.
It certainly gets in the headlines.
We'll see. We'll see if I don't know. I guess I just don't get that claim, but he could say what he wants, I guess. They could say what they want. This was interesting. I saw this report about a new YouTube feature that was kind of a way to take kids who had been on the YouTube Kids platform and sort of introduce them to the YouTube world at large. And so it's sort of a stepping point between being in an incredibly supervised and limited YouTube to full YouTube. And hearing about this just kind of made me think about how many kids are, and I say this, I'm not saying this as a question, I'm saying this as a statement. It made me think about how many kids there are that kind of YouTube is where they live, and YouTube is their main source of content consumption. And I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, they have it's like a supervised account experience. So basically the parents can actually see what your kids are watching on YouTube, and I think it's probably more like teens, and they call it tweens and teens.
Tweens and teens.
But so it is beyond just the kid level where there's clear restrictions, even at the creator level for whether or not it's available for kids. But once you get past that, there's still a lot of stuff that, you can see all the time where you watch one random video and suddenly you slide into all of these really problematic stories. And it's I wasn't even doing anything related to that. And so I think that's why just even understanding at all what your kids are watching and consuming is incredibly important for parents, because kids aren't able to make, even teenagers aren't able to make those distinctions. Or, I mean, there's a bunch of, like, I don't even almost want to get into it because it is like mind blowing to me, but there's like denialism on TikTok a lot, where like there's a lot of kids who think incorrect things about factual events in history because they watch influencers and things like that make videos about it. Or especially, I think YouTube too is not just influencers. It's like the actual people who are doing all of that stuff. And so it's even worse to get it like straight from the horse's mouth or whatever. And so I think this is an incredibly important, like, on some level, I want to include this because I do make YouTube videos, and I feel guilty on some level using a platform that enables that kind of stuff to proliferate, especially amongst children. So this is like does seem like a big initiative. Like, this is a whole splash page and things like that, and a bunch of different stories. And I'm hoping that this is incredibly not well used, but just widely used, because this is super important. So I figured that's why it was worth mentioning, because not everybody always hears about. I know personally, as I'm following YouTube in terms of creator stuff, they like put stuff out every week, and it's always really small and sometimes have big changes. And so I think it's not always clear when YouTube makes a huge change like this. So if you have a kid or know somebody whose kid should be supervised on YouTube, send this story to them.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Yeah, even if you don't have a kid, consider sending this story so that they know that they can get this set up for their children. That would be a good idea, I think. All right, let's see what's up next. So we talked a little bit about this on Tech News Weekly today, because it was really interesting to see that Google had introduced some feature updates for the Android platform. And one of those is called TalkBack, which is a screen reader. And TalkBack now has some new voice command and language options to improve upon the feature set that helps those who have low to no vision. So I think that this is obviously a win for everyone, but particularly for those who need to use a feature like TalkBack. I have to give props, I think, to Android and Google for doing a good job of improving upon the accessibility on the platform. One feature that I wish that we had, I say we because you and I know use iOS mostly, that I wish we had on iOS was captioning across different systems. And that's there are privacy implications there that are involved, and so in that way, I understand what the reasoning behind why that might not be the case on iOS is. But I think that that's such a nifty feature, and I've heard people talk about how they use those kinds of features even when they don't need them necessarily, but they are helpful features, and I could absolutely see how that would be a helpful feature to have. So any improvements in this space, I think, are worth celebrating for sure.
Yeah, especially when it happens at a OS level. That's where it doesn't suddenly become on every developer to understand this, or, I mean, not that they shouldn't understand it, because it's still important to serve all of your users, but just making it easier, or maybe they can just implement it because these features are built there as opposed to having to do it on their own. And like a system level captioning thing, I think would be that's a great example. Or even, I'm trying to think of a different word, because I don't remember if captions implies audio versus the like image descriptions and things like that is another area that the system could make it easier on users to add that to every app that they use. So yeah, this is great. And I also saw that they co-developed it with Samsung, so that's good that it will also be well implemented into the actual devices themselves, because Google doesn't always make them. So great news.
Great news. Google Assistant lock screen commands have new features that weren't there before. So, of course, Google calls these cards, and then these cards kind of have contextual information that you can pick up on. And so there are some new personal results and things like that. It says, Google said this: we want to give you more ways to use your phones hands-free. So you can do things like use your voice to make calls, set timers or alarms, and play music. Now the latest updates to Google Assistant make it easier to get things done on your phone without needing to be right next to it. So voice commands, instead of having to have your phone in your hand. An example of this is somebody watering a plant, and that they can communicate and interact without having to pull things up.
Yeah, this is interesting. I feel like it's a weird sort of blend between just using the assistant and then have Google's whole card implementation that does exist in their other apps and can kind of pop up as needed. So I like the part especially where you could just like use, I mean, I'm going to Siri just because that's what I use, but if they had something similar on iOS, I would imagine where you can just use Siri, but then once you come back to the device, that interactive card is there and you could keep working with it. So I always like seeing advances to these smart assistants on both sides because we can learn from each other and just everybody kind of wins in the meantime. So especially things like they were showing music controls are now just part of that experience as opposed to it just playing the music and then nothing happens. You can pop open the card and control the music right there. So neat little Google Assistant update.
Yeah. I like the both approach because, again, for me, maybe I would use my voice for a moment, but then being able to confirm by reading what the text showed is very handy. Now, this next one is very important, how we go about phrasing it, because when we talked about this on Tech News Weekly, I about had a heart attack because they described Android Auto, which is sort of for folks who are familiar with CarPlay, that's Google's form or Android's form of CarPlay, or for folks who are familiar with infotainment systems in general, both of the major smartphone operating system creators, that would be Apple and Google, have infotainment systems that are built into the devices. So Apple has something called CarPlay, and Android has something called Android Auto. And when I heard that there were going to be games on Android Auto, at first I was thinking, what? But then when my co-host Jason Howell described the type of games, I said, oh, if you would have called them car games or travel games, I would have had less of a freak out. And it looks like this site, I guess it's CNET, described them as car games. And that was the best thing you could possibly do. So this is, I think, a really good idea. It's been a long time since I've done a, long distance drive, but at one point went from Missouri to California was one drive that I took, but I guess I'll just use that as the example. Driving from Missouri to California, which is 26 hours, it would have been fun to have some of these kinds of games where you can play trivia with everybody in the car. You could play Jeopardy with everybody in the car. That actually seems like it'd be a lot of fun to be able to play these games while you're in the car. And it's not, as I joked, it's not as if Pac-Man pops up on the screen and you're supposed to use the volume up and down controls on the steering wheel to make Pac-Man go places. No, it's much less sort of eye-based focus in order to play the games. Yeah, and
voice games.
I think Google even discourages the driver from playing. But come on, if it's in the car and the driver is going to end up playing. Let's be real.
Yeah, I thought that's clever. I'm just imagining a very extreme version where it's, you ever play like, I don't know if it's called like the license plate game or something where you're trying, or it's maybe the alphabet where you're trying to like see a license plate, and if it starts with A, then you call it out, you get A, and then you move on through the alphabet. That's totally one that I would play.
The alphabet game. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I just don't know the name. But I just imagined if there's some sort of like computer vision thing where the car can verify that you actually saw that letter and stuff like that, whoever called it first, because it's
yeah, that would be.
And you're right, it is like
no,
not the same as Tesla has like actual video games that you can play while you're parked and you steer with the car steering wheel and things like that. So it's like a voice travel game kind of thing, which is neat. And yeah, this article also mentions the shortcut stuff that we were talking about. So you can have little Google Assistant type things on your car. And I thought this was cool. If you have a large enough screen, which some cars do, you can actually have split screen and get the whole media thing going. So I thought this was just a good Android Auto update as well, because they took the time during the pandemic to make these things better. So I feel like now we're getting the benefits, which is great.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. So free users of Spotify apparently can no longer use the Chromecast audio or the casting audio system to make music play on Google smart speakers and displays. This is one of those times where we have to talk about how it's never a good idea to take something away from someone after you've given it to them. Why do companies do this? I don't understand.
Well, you haven't paid for it in this case, at least.
Oh, that's true. But I guess it is. I guess so is it Spotify that's in charge of this then?
Yeah. I mean, I think the main thing is, I don't even know. I can't even remember with the free tier. It mostly just shuffles the music too. But one of the things with Spotify's integration with most of these kinds of speakers is that you're not like casting from your phone to the device. There's an instance of Spotify running on that device that then you basically make an API request to that device and it goes and lets you know what was going on. And so, or it starts playing it back. And so basically they're paying for all of these smart speakers to play people's free music. And ultimately that's just a cost for them that they don't recoup. And I could see too, like, yeah, that's still very weird. Like, I guess, does Android itself have, or like, I'm trying to imagine, can you connect to these with Bluetooth still? Or does this actually just fully remove Spotify from any
smart speakers? You
can.
I believe the Nest Audio is one that you can connect over Bluetooth. So I guess it's just the cast that's changing, right?
Yeah, that's fair, from like the Chromecast menu. But maybe just because I'm not as a daily Android user, I'd be curious to know if people mostly use that. And at a certain point,
I would imagine they do.
If you're really that big of a Spotify user, you're going to be paying for it for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. I think it's just like the free lunch is over.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, it's okay.
I wish that, never mind, because it's going to make me, now I have to say it, because if I don't say it, then people will like assume the worst. I wish that I had wealth enough to give everyone who has free Spotify paid Spotify, because every time I'm somewhere that there's not free Spotify or that there's not paid Spotify and those ads come on to interrupt, I'm like, oh my God, just give me your Spotify account right now. You're getting at least a month of Spotify. It's just, I know that sounds super privileged, but it's more about there's something about interrupting.
Yeah.
I think it's because I'm spoiled with being such a cord cutter. I don't see ads elsewhere. And so in those situations, and this hasn't happened in a long time because we've been in lockdown, but I remember being with some folks before all this happened, and they're playing music over the outside speakers at their house. And then it was just like, I'm like, oh my God, no, why is there an ad? No.
The whole neighborhood. Yeah.
And for some people, it just doesn't faze them. But for me, I just want everybody to have a paid streaming music service. That's all. Anyway, there are more important things for people to have. I understand that. This is kind of neat. the Apple TV app has made its way to a lot of platforms. It's come to Samsung smart televisions. It's on TCL smart TVs. I think I even saw it's going to be on the PlayStation. It's in a lot of places. And now that includes the Google Chromecast, the most recent Google Chromecast with Google TV device. It has the Apple TV app on it. What? And it's funny, the Made by Google Twitter account even kind of makes a joke about it. Is this really happening? Are you really here? The Apple TV app has finally landed on your Chromecast with Google TV. We can't even right now with this. Yeah, very, is that post-millennial? Is that whatever speak that
Gen
is?
Z?
Gen Z.
It's youthful speak. I wasn't sure if it was technically millennial to say RN, but I think it is. I don't know.
I think
don't
it's
really
the
say
we
RN.
can't even. We can't even
it's
blank.
I was going to say, Gen Z would probably find this extremely cringy, although I also do find it a little cringy. But I mean, they have
I don't want Google saying RN.
Yeah, they've got a GIF of For All Mankind, like they're landing, so it's a little less cheesy at least.
That part made me, smile, not chuckle per se, but smile. But it's the we can't even and all of those things that are.
I'm very curious.
Awesome.
I don't know
though, right?
Google TV as closely if they have a up next type experience, but because I like to see the companies that have these services, not just like if you can only watch it on Apple devices is like a dumb thing. And so I think when consumers win, ultimately that is a win for everybody. And the brands, I don't think, should compete especially on a content level like this. And so the reason why I say this is because it still bugs me that Netflix doesn't play ball with the Apple TV app itself on Apple TV, because you can't have that whole up next experience and have your shows going through. So it's like even Google and Apple are playing ball, and Netflix is still took theirs and went home. So it's like, come on, guys.
Get it together, people.
And it's like Spotify is not playing ball with Google there. So, I mean, they did that Spotify free thing for years and years. So I guess it's all evening out there. But it is interesting to see just companies playing nice when they don't always. Yeah,
especially these two. We can't even right now. Up next, we have our project that we're going to talk about, and then we'll talk about our picks of the week. So, Matthew Cassinelli, tell me about the project for this week.
Yes, I have a new shortcut that I wanted to share with people. And I don't know if you happen to have, I should have said this before, but if you have Ecamm, we could maybe show people the steps or something like that.
I would have had to know that earlier. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got to get a better title for this because I don't think it's the best, but it's just called Change Speaker. I didn't want to specify HomePod or anything like that because I have others that aren't a HomePod, but maybe speaker control. I don't know, whatever. But this is a single shortcut to basically control the playback from your phone or HomePods or Apple TV all in one shortcut. So basically the way that this works is I have it run and check which current device you're using so that it can determine what to do. But then the phone, it has just a simple combination in the menu of saying, do you want to put it back to this iPhone or to a HomePod mini or to the Apple TV? And then I use a series of various actions depending on the device to set the playback destination to the AirPods Pro, or I guess I didn't mention that, but set it to the AirPods or hand off to one of the HomePods if you have one or multiple. And then using set playbacks destination will enable you to cast to a TV as well as do home AirPlay stuff. But then the one that I like is the option to hand back to me. And so basically all in one shortcut, I can cast to those devices. And then when I'm done, I can choose the hand back to me option. And then it will let me pick which speaker and then send the audio back onto the current device. And so this is kind of a wireless handoff experience, while also, I mean, I guess not wireless, but it is wireless, but it's not close range like you have to be to actually hold the phone up to those, which is nice. And then it's a good way also if you use different Bluetooth speakers or want to listen on your TV sound system to quickly cast to there, as well as AirPlay videos and anything like that up there. So I just want to share more of these shortcuts each week so that people can take advantage of them, because I've been I used to have these all as single Siri commands and also actions on my iPad home screen. But I've been trying to make them into more simple shortcuts that you can just keep on the home screen. So speaker control, I've got this on my dock or my main iPhone home screen, and I use it all the time. It's great. It really does help to use AirPlay on different HomePods and the more often. And then the one thing that I would wish I could add to this is Apple adding the ability to cast to multiple speakers. I think that's what will make this shortcut way better. I mean, I still love it right now, but I think it's going to be a must-have once we get that, because right now there's not really a great way to like set up zones of audio using HomeKit. Like right now, it's pretty much. You know what? Now that I'm saying it, I wonder. I guess you probably can't with the control home action. I just
watch I'm like this, having folks. Tune in. Watch what's happening right now. He's processing. It's about to come to an answer. Yeah, an epiphany.
Because, well, if I'm just curious, I don't know if it would create a speaker pair, but I do know that using the control home action, you could set multiple HomePods and then play audio, but I don't know if it'll actually pair them in that sort of playback destination part of Control Center. I will have to test that, and maybe there will be an updated version of the shortcut soon. That would actually be nice. But I think the main thing is when you use the set playback destination or handoff actions, it just forces you to pick one speaker. And this has been around for a couple of years now, where I kind of assumed that we were going to get this, I think even like 2 years ago. And so now I'm like, I was just on a podcast and I mentioned it, and everybody was like, yes, please, we need this, because it would just be, that's like what shortcuts would be perfect of like play music downstairs, play it on these two speakers. Like I have one in my, especially now that we have the HomePod Mini, I have a more variety that I would set up little scenes for the audio. But yeah, it's probably going to be through the control home action. So I guess get it now and then get the update next week too, which it is nice that shortcuts can just replace over on top. So yeah, speaker control speaker shortcut. Get it in the show notes.
All right. Awesome. Up next, we've got our picks of the week. All right, my pick of the week, I'll start here, it's a bit of follow-up as we promised. So you may remember last week we talked about how Amazon was kind of launching a sort of Kickstarter, but on Amazon. So the idea was that there would be ideas put forth for products, and if you thought that the product was cool, then you could agree to pre-order it, and then if enough people pre-order the product by a given date, then Amazon would make the product, would make it happen. And so there was a smart scale that kind of was related to nutrition. And the idea there is that you've got, how many, you put a bowl and then you tear and then you throw in some blueberries and it weighs out the blueberries. You've got 10 grams of blueberries and you say, how many grams of sugar are in these blueberries, and then it would tell you, I should say like 70 grams of blueberries. But anyway, point is it sort of uses nutrition and the weight measurement to help you figure out different things about food. The other one was this kind of highly stylized cuckoo clock that had a built-in LED lights for timers. So it's a lot like the ALEXA clock that's out there right now, except it looks like a cuckoo clock. And so it's just kind of a different take, a different style of the thing that already existed. And the last one was the thing that I was most excited about, which was a sticky note, a smart sticky note printer. And so the idea is that you could have ALEXA print out little to-do list items that would become sticky notes that you could put places, or little puzzles or little notes or all sorts of stuff that you could just have print out. And it uses a thermal printer. So it's, the special paper that reacts to thermal printing in order to display what you want on there. And I thought that was a great idea as a way to, there are sometimes where I want to take little notes or have a little checklist that's more physical versus just completely digital. And apparently, a lot of people feel this way because the Smart Sticky Note Printer is the first of the day one edition first build, or I can't remember exactly. Do you remember what the concept itself is called?
Active day one edition concepts. So
there we go. And so this is the first one to. Oh, build it was the word I was looking for. That's kind of so day one editions were first introduced with the Echo frames and the Echo Loop, which was a ring. And this new build it program is kind of like the Kickstarter portion of it. So on day 3 of 30 days, this printer was fully funded. And so you have, if this seemed exciting or interesting to you, you should know that you have 22 days. If you're listening to this on Thursday, February 25th, you've got 22 days to hop in there and get the discount price of $90. On March 19th, the price will change to $115. So it's going to go up. So now is the pre-order price if that seems interesting to you. So you want to hop in and make that happen. And Amazon says that this will ship out sometime between July and September of 2021. So I'm looking forward to this. I think this is a pretty neat thing. We'll see if any of the other stuff ends up getting roasted dandelion tea with chamomile. Wow. We'll see if any of the other products end up getting funded. And I think what I'm most looking forward to is what else Amazon comes up with for this these day one editions.
I think it's a clever way to expand that line like we were saying last time. And I do wish, I wish you could get yours before the pre-order thing. Obviously, this doesn't make sense, but before the price went up so I could know if it was worth it.
Yeah, see, that's the problem, right? You don't know if it's going to work as you. Yeah, they've got to make it. Yeah, we'll have to see. Regardless, I will let you know. I doubt it's going to be, something where it's like, $120. But again, as we looked it up last week, thermal printers are more than $120 on average. So if a thermal printer is something that you feel you want, $90 and $120 are actually not bad prices for them. So we'll see. We'll see if it ends up being what it says it is, and whether or not I will back any other future build that will depend on how great this is come July through September. I'm hoping it's closer to July and not September, because September is forever away. Well, folks, we've reached the end of another episode of Smart Tech Today.
Oh, wait, you skipped me.
Oh my God, I did. I'm so sorry. Wow. Let's rewind. Matthew Cassinelli, what is your pick of the week?
I'll go fast since Micah's got to put out the door now.
No. Take your time. Take your time.
I'm totally
I
kidding.
just usually go second, and so I thought it was over. I'm sorry. Take your time. Tell me about it.
I'm just ribbing you. So I wanted to, this one is not exactly a product, but I thought was an interesting social thing that's been going on that I didn't always know how people were doing it. So the story is about the TikTok's use of text-to-speech and how people will call it the Siri voice, even though it is, I didn't even know, first of all, that it's just a built-in text-to-speech feature that you can highlight the text that you put on screen and it will speak it for you using their version of their not assistant, but just what do you call it, voice control or something like that. But I thought it was very interesting, and just because there's tweets down at the bottom of the article about how they're like, I read everything in this Siri voice. Like, I do hear this all the time now, because I think it's kind of a cool thing that TikTok itself adapted to using captions and text-to-speech as an accessibility feature, because people realized that it would make their videos more, like, even just as a social media content production thing, having captions and things like that is just means that you can watch it with your audio off. But even allowing people to understand what is being said clearly at each moment by using the combo of captions and text-to-speech. And then it even just morphed beyond into that of just like a thing that everybody does because everybody else does it. But it's still, the side benefit is that now it's all accessible. So I thought that's kind of just a fascinating spotlight on how that accessibility thing both became the culture and the culture promoted the accessibility. And then another article too that's just in the link in a similar way is, I love this dude on TikTok who speaks into his AirPod. I don't even know what the original called. EarPods cord. So it always looks like he's looking into the wrong end of a mic. But then he gives all these iPhone tips. And in the same way, there's a link about how you can use shortcuts to use speak text and have Siri say anything in real life also, which I love doing. And I have a shortcut where it randomizes a list of 3 different lists of Shakespearean insults and then combines it. So it's like, you foul-mouthed wench. And then Siri just says that
right.
to me. It's so good. So I just thought it's like interesting. Both these platforms do an amazing job of letting people know about these features and also just building it into the service and the culture of the platform itself. So kind of a interesting smart assistant culture observation thing there. And like, I just didn't know how to do it even. So the first article tells you how to activate that feature if you are a TikToker. So
my favorite one is when they use it with dogs. And so it'll be a narration of the story that the dog tells. And there's one about this dog that ate something it shouldn't have and then ended up expelling something that it should not have ate. And then the other dog consuming the thing that had been expelled.
Oh, wow.
It just got very bad. But the whole time it is said in this voice that is just very deadpan. Yeah. And you just see the dogs on the screen that are trying to come toward the camera. And so it just adds this whole level of comedy that you would not get if the person was telling the story themselves. Well, folks, we have reached the end of another episode of Smart Tech Today, this time for real. Mikah will not make that same mistake again. If you have questions for us, if you have feedback you want to send, you send that to stt@twit.tv. Of course, if you want to hang out live with us, you can do that by going to twit.tv/live on Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. But the best way to get the show, to check out the show, is by getting a subscription to the show. How do you get a subscription to the show? Well, it's free. You just go to twit.tv/STT, where you can subscribe to the show in both audio and video formats. You just click subscribe to audio, subscribe to video, find your service. The kind of top services are up there at the top with little links, so you can subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or if you know what it means, you can subscribe to the RSS itself. Yes, you nerds out there, we know you. In any case, we try to be everywhere there's a place to be. So if you've got a podcast app, chances are you will be able to listen to Smart Tech Today. And we do appreciate you for listening to the show and tuning in each week or downloading the show each week as we publish it. If folks want to follow you online, Matthew Cassinelli, where do they go to do that?
MatthewCassinelli.com.
Did it work?
Try again.
Oh no, I'm trying to use my shortcut to speak it for me. Here, I'll turn up the volume.
MatthewCassinelli.com.
Perfect.
Pretty good.
Perfect. Yeah. We got there in the end. What can folks find at MatthewCassinelli.com?
You can find my whole collection of shortcuts and my membership program. And I'm actually relaunching both soon. So I've rebuilt all of my shortcuts. I guess I probably already mentioned this, but
isn't this like the 15th time you've done that?
It's going even better. And even this week, I think I said to my girlfriend, I finally cracked it. So I was like, I got I got to a whole nother level, which I'm super pumped about. So it's taking some more time than I thought it was going to, but still, I'm super excited. So check it out there. What about you?
Right. You can find me pretty much any social media network, including Clubhouse, at Mikah Sargent. But you can also just head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to all the places I exist online, or many of them anyway, with QR codes and all that kind of stuff to boot. That brings us to the very end, which means all that's left is to say good afternoon to all of our smart assistants.
Good afternoon.
Bad timing.
If you like Android with a heavy dose of fun and entertainment, then you're going to love All About Android. It's me, Jason Howell, along with my co-hosts Ron Richards and Florence Ion. Every Tuesday, we discuss the news items that matter most, the hardware and devices that are running Android, and the apps that run on top of them. Plus, we answer your email each and every week. That's All About Android on twit.tv.